get into this strange Obama, walk off the stage here. What you think this is really signaling? Breaking right now, we're just learning Hunter Biden will seek new federal gun trial. Not surprising here, but again, they're going to try to get this case off the books for him. Your reaction?
Look, I think what they're trying to do is really distract. They want to look like this is a fight. They couldn't be happier that Hunter Biden's legal troubles are about a application for a gun, because when you look at all of the legal troubles that we've seen through his laptop, the laptop that so many people told us not to look at in the last election, that laptop is filled with proof that he has been treasonous. He's been selling access to his father, and it's access for foreign countries. And so they don't want that case to move forward. They don't want DOJ looking at that. But I can promise you a future DOJ is going to do it.
Well, it'll come up, no doubt, on that debate stage. And we're wondering how Joe Biden's going to perform. Yes, they put rules in place. They might be sitting. They're going to try to do that. But Obama kind of putting his hand on his back, walking him off. I'll play that video again. The senior advisor to Obama, Eric Schultz, posting on X saying, this did not happen. Of course, it's just like what they said on the G7 when he's distracted looking away and Giorgia Meloni brings him back to the crowd. They don't want you to believe what you're seeing. What do you think we're seeing here? Is this sort of is he lost, or is Obama signaling to folks like, hey, I'm still running things behind the scenes here. You vote for Joe, but you got me?
Maybe it's a little bit of both, but what's clear is that the Biden campaign thinks they can get away with denying what we see in a video. They're in Hollywood with a bunch of millionaires who are trying to say that inflation is not a problem. They're in Hollywood with a bunch of millionaires who are trying to say the war in Ukraine and the war in Gaza is no problem. But they're going to have to raise a lot more money than they have. They're going to have to spend quite a bit of cash in order to convince the American people that we're not at war and that inflation is not a problem. The reason why they keep doing it is because they've been able to get away with it because they control the media. They control the narrative. But something that's happened with social media is we're seeing this video immediately because of social media. In the old days, we would have never seen this video. No media outlet would have put it on. But thanks to organizations like Newsmax and social media outlets like what Elon Musk has, we're able to see it immediately.
Yeah, the White House is none too happy about it. I'd like to talk about a tragedy involving a Maryland mother of 5 allegedly killed from an illegal here from El Salvador. And even the Democratic governor, Rick, of Maryland, Wes Moore, talking about her death and how this should have never come to pass.
We have an immigration policy that needed to have been dealt with and was not. And the consequences then fall on us.
There you go. Laken Riley, another young woman, immigration's a huge issue, and as they are, you say, all hobnobbing, there's people now mourning the death. 5 children who lost their mother here by a person who shouldn't have even been in our country. And over, they're also trying to gaslight Americans on this as well. Tomorrow, they will be doing amnesty for DACA. You know this. This is the way they run on it, is saying, well, we're a nation built on immigrants. Yes, but this is a situation where we have terrorists now at our border and in our country, Rick.
Well, first of all, no one in America should ever take the position that somehow we're mean-spirited towards immigrants. We are the most generous nation in the history of the world when it comes to immigration. Roughly 1 million people a year get to be U.S. citizens. No other nation does that. We are extremely generous on immigration. No one should ever back away from that. However, the State Department partly exists to be able to vet people, to be able to have lines so that we know who's coming in. No one is angrier about the line jumpers, about the people illegally coming in, than those who have been waiting in line. First and second generation Americans, Hispanics, people who have waited in line and done it legally are furious. This is not a mean-spirited Republican issue. The people who want there to be a sensitivity towards immigrants are the ones waiting in line, doing it the right way, and they don't want to see people cutting the line. That's the problem. Right. And then second to this point is when you don't vet people, you get terrible people in the country that would have been kicked out by the State Department process if they went through the process. So you get ISIS members, which we've seen now, 8 ISIS members coming in. We see people on the terrorist watch list, and we see murderers like this. They're not being vetted. And remember the code word sanctuary cities?
Oh, yeah.
That's a code word for not vetting anyone and not letting anyone get in trouble. It's a terrible concept with a nice name.
No, and they fly them wherever they want on the taxpayers' dime. We have to show IDs when we travel, and they're just, moving people around. Overseas, internationally, Iran is advancing its nuclear enrichment program. We have Vladimir Putin going to North Korea tomorrow. So they are obviously looking at a very weak Joe Biden. On the world stage here is someone who has, a lot of diplomatic experience. It does seem like the strengthening and the emboldenment of this administration is going to be with us for some time, at least until, Americans go to the polls. But there's still many months here, and there's still many moves, especially Iran, can be making, as we see, Rick.
Look, I speak to world leaders pretty regularly. The Washington Post wants you to think that I'm only speaking to leaders who are right-wing. That couldn't be further from the truth. They know that that's not true. I've spoken with a lot of socialist leaders, a lot of lefties, and they will tell you privately that they want Donald Trump. Some of them won't say it publicly, but they will say it privately. Now, the people who are talking about supporting Joe Biden publicly are people like Vladimir Putin and Olaf Scholz, the leader in Germany. We have a situation where Russia and Germany both want the weaker guy. They want Joe Biden to be in charge because he's predictable and weak. That makes sense.
It helps
Whether
them.
you're competing with us economically like Germany, or you're on the opposite side of us on freedom and democracy like Russia, you want the weaker guy running the United States.
Right. And you want them, like Biden, dropping terrorist designations for the Houthis, who are back at it again. You want people like that who are going to turn a blind eye and then let them raise billions of dollars. Finally, we started this block with Hunter Biden. Americans so frustrated. They know the laptop's real now. They know about how the White House and, this disinformation has just been so flagrant. Breaking right now. House Foreign Affairs Committee Chairman Michael McCaul did send a letter to the former White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki saying that there will be a confirmed transcribed interview before his committee on July 26 regarding the Biden's administration's disastrous pullout of Rick of Afghanistan. This is where a lot of people go back to it when he said minor incursion, the disastrous withdrawal. It all kind of goes back to Joe Biden's watch right here. What do you think will happen with Jen Psaki at this transcribed interview? Again, it's all about transparency for the American people.
Well, if no one is above the law, then she has to show up. We see others who are put in jail for not showing up. So Jen Psaki has to show up, and she has to answer the tough questions. Let's see if she does it, but she owes it to the American people to be transparent.
Ambassador Ric Grenell, always a pleasure to have you. Thanks for being with me today.
All the best.
Thank you.